Hello and welcome back for another episode of Ranching Reboot. I'm your host, Brian Alexander, and this is episode 142. Ranching Reboot is made possible through the generous support of my amazing patrons on patreon.com/redhillsrancher and my subscribers on Spotify. I need more help from folks just like you to help keep Ranching Reboot on the air. So if you'd head over to patreon.com/redhillsrancher and check out all the patron benefits, and add your name in the ranks to my subscribers on Spotify, sign up now for just $5 on either platform, and you'll get access to a podcast feed that doesn't have ads. Those episodes start with just the intro music. That's patreon.com, patreon.com/redhillsrancher, or just click the links in the show notes. I'm looking for potential sponsors for next year, and if you'd like to talk to me about sponsorship package and see what I have planned for next year, email me at redhillsrancher@gmail.com. And since now y'all have my email address, if you have any guest requests or suggestions, you can send those into the same address. If you're not using Landtrust, I just don't know what to say anymore. Landtrust is a great platform to connect landowners with sportsmen that just want to enjoy what you have to offer. Upland bird season just opened here, and as I'm recording this, my second group of hunters is wrapping up their hunt. So far, everybody's had great luck finding birds, and my family's going to enjoy a nice Christmas. Landtrust is super easy to use on both sides of the fence, so what are you waiting for? Head on over to landtrust.com/a/reboot or just click the link in the show notes and see what they can do for you today. My guest this week is Trevor Burian. Trevor is not just a rancher, he's a visionary in the world of regenerative agriculture. With a keen eye on the future, he's constantly exploring innovative methods to enhance soil health, improve livestock management, and foster sustainable food systems. His journey is one of both challenges and triumphs, and it's imbued with a deep understanding of the intricate balance between nature and agriculture. From managing his oil field business to experimenting with controlled burns on his property, Trevor embodies the spirit of a modern-day rancher who's not afraid to push boundaries. So buckle up as we dive into a conversation filled with insights, experiences, and forward-thinking ideas with Trevor Burian. Hey, you want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money. All in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take your conversations with fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today. Hey, Trevor. How's it going, buddy?
Good, Brian. Good to be back.
Yeah, what is this? Number 3, I think, for you?
Yep. Number 3. Second one was just mostly me asking you questions, giving a quick update, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we need to have that every once in a while.
Yep, for sure.
I don't always get a chance to talk about what I'm doing because I'm more interested in what you guys are doing. So what have you been doing? What have you been up to the last few months?
Well, we got a couple groups of our custom grazers in and out of here. We brought in cattle. The big group of steers are a group of 745 steers. We brought them in April 30th and got rid of them on October 12th. And so I had a learning curve with them. And then we brought in another group of cattle of breeding heifers May 10th and then got rid of them. It would have been middle of October, about October 15th.
Okay.
And
Well, but before we get too far into that, I'm sure there might be like 3 or 4 people that have, kind of started listening to the podcast since the last time we talked. Why don't you what's your 30-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you do?
Trevor Burian, we ranch, and me and my wife Bailey ranch in western North Dakota. We were a pretty traditional cow-calf operation for about a decade, and then started transitioning into regenerative agriculture, and then going to ranching for profit and figuring out we probably shouldn't even. Yep, there it is. Figure out we probably shouldn't even own cows because our winter feed costs were just so high, and even cutting off, a month or two of winter feed costs, it still was going to be pretty tough. So yeah, we sold the cow herd and transitioned to just we're 100% custom grazing right now, taking in other people's cattle. I don't know if that's what we're going to do forever, but yeah, that's the right place for us right now. So that's what we're doing.
I agree. I mean, the numbers kind of don't lie. And for a lot of people, it makes sense to go towards a custom grazing model. But on the same token, there's still got to be people that own the cows, and it just doesn't make sense for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think someday we might try to get back into some into cow calf, but I think it's probably going to be more of the model of buying when the market's low and then riding the market up and then maybe dispersing the herd, once the market hits highs again, which we're looking probably 10 years down the line to get back to where we are right now. But yep, future plans.
Not a bad move. And you have to see it. Like, you have to see the drought cycle, you have to see the cattle market cycle. You have to almost see it go through one time and pay your dues, get burned. It costs money, right? It costs money to learn those lessons watching the cycle. But after you've seen it once or twice, it's like, oh, I get it now. I know when to buy in next time, and I know when to
Mhm.
sell next time, so it doesn't cost me. So this education doesn't cost me a fortune a third time.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when we sold our cows, it was beginning of 2022. We got a fairly good price for them, but if we could have waited a year, we could have capitalized even more. But in between that span, we probably would have been spending $1,000 a head feeding them last winter because we had a pretty tough winter. But just being in the position next time, if we do that, to not be also trying to service a whole bunch of debt, um, would really help because when you're already in debt and then have to take out more loans to feed the herd, it just you end up eating into your equity. And so yeah, we had to get out.
Do you think that's the path, as the guys that are staying in, like the cow calf business? Do you think they're eventually going to start eating into their equity because they have no choice to keep going?
Yeah, I see it all around me. That's kind of what the model is. And now people are, you know, getting a lot of that paid back here with these markets, which was much needed. And hopefully they stay high here for a year or two. Otherwise, I think we're just going to be right back to where we were here a year or two ago with, low cattle prices and everyone wondering how this is going to work.
Yeah. Okay. So I've talked to several people over the last couple months. I talked to Uncle Wally. We off the record talked to Craig Guffey. Um, the question is, or the question has been, is how high is the cattle market going to go? And one of the reasons I take the High Plains Journal, every once in a while they've got some good articles in there. They put on some good events. Um, do you take High Plains Journal?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, all the way in the back, okay, the back 3 pages are what I go to first. There's a page that's area alfalfa prices. So it's got graphs on it, show you what alfalfa prices are doing. And the page before that has all the cattle market information and the graphs on it. Like, the facing page is, all the sale barns and what their reported sales for classes. And then they summarize it in 3 graphs. It quit looking like a skateboard ramp 3 weeks ago. Like, 3 weeks ago, there was a definite top in the 800-pound calf market, right? And it started to roll off. 2 weeks ago, saw a peak on the slaughter cow market, and it's starting to roll off. Young stock, like steers and heifers, young stock prices are still pretty high. I mean, they're holding up. So the question that I would have is, Well, not a question. I don't think that we've topped the market. I think there's going to be a dip, and I think it's going to go back up. Maybe in another month or two, but I don't I don't think prices are going to go back to where they were 18 months ago. Is what I'm saying. I think we may have established a new low, and we're just going to keep creeping up from there. What do you think?
I'd agree with that. I don't think we're building any. We're not rising in cow numbers yet, and then especially there was some TikToks on it yesterday, the last 24 hours on people's open rates, and we just got done with our EL meetings in Colorado Springs, and from various producers down there, heard a lot of people talk about just astronomical open rates, and so if that's the case everywhere, I mean, we're I mean it has to go up. There's just not enough cows right now.
Yeah, I mean, if our cow herd, like the breeding cow herd, is as small as it's been since like the 60s, maybe, and if we've had a subpar, like industry wide, if we've had subpar fertility and breed up, that's, that hurts. Not just that hurts for several years down the line, I guess is what I'm saying. It takes so long to recover. When you've got pigs that can, you can have 3 litters of pigs in a year. You know, if you have a subpar breeding cycle, it's not bad. You'll make that up. You can make that up by the end of the year. Chickens, chickens, you can turn those things 3 or 4 times a year as well. Cattle, that's a 2-year process for a commodity animal, or nearly a 3-year process for a grass-fed animal. Those numbers hurt for a long time. Like, can you share like maybe some, like, paint with a broad brush, and like what are numbers people are seeing that they're reporting that they're scared of?
Like 30-40% open rates. And there was one person I talked to here in the last week. Their entire it was weird, and there's a lot of cases like this where one group of cows will breed up good and another won't. Like their heifers and young cows and 3-year-olds were like at 85-90%, just great. And everything like 5 and over that was in a different pasture, there was 70% open. And
70% open.
yeah, 7-0, yeah. Yeah. So and yeah, I've heard quite a few people having some wrecks like that. So yeah, pretty tough to build a cow herd when you have open rates like that. But I've heard some people, they're right around normal too. So it's not every single person, but I mean, when you have those wrecks here and there, that drags the whole average down.
Yeah, it does. I mean, 70% bred is less than ideal. 70% open, that's catastrophic. Like, I'd hope whoever does that or has that situation is actively working and has found what their problem was and is taking steps to correct it. I mean, I'm kind of like 70% breed up. I'd be pretty okay with that, with my Longhorns and Corrientes on the bare bones inputs that I give them. I've done better than that, but I think that's acceptable. 80%, like, I'd like to see right around 80, low 80s percentage wise on a low input program. I mean, you can feed condition and fertility into anything. We all know that. And with as expensive as feeds got the last couple of years, it's it'd be awful hard for me to want to haul out $300 a ton alfalfa to cows just to keep them alive through the winter.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. And how are feed prices down in your neck of the woods?
Honestly, I haven't really kept up on them. I believe alfalfa is still over 200. I think alfalfa hay is 200 to 240. One of my buddies was thinking it might get back down around 180, 170. I told him he was dreaming, and that seems to be the case. I think like 20% range cubes, nothing special. I think they're over $300 a ton. So, we go back the last couple of years, you and I, we've been talking about on social media, those, the the video, I'm thinking of the videos I did that kicked off hay war. That was over a year ago. And prices aren't coming down. Like they haven't really come off from when I made those videos about feed prices and what it would cost to keep a cow, for this much hay, protein supplement at this and hay at this. I, man, I don't know. Like I I can't see spending $1,000 for the next 180 days to get a cow back to green grass. Like that does not compute at all in any kind of economic math for my operation.
Yeah, even with what the market is right now, you're probably looking at break even at best if you're spending that kind of money to get a cow through the winter.
And I can't, and I'm not going to go take out a loan on my equity and burn my equity just to stay alive and hope that the market holds out until next year when I've got, when I would be selling. Yeah. Yeah. I I think there's a lot of value to be had staying out of the commodity market, not being exposed to that kind of price volatility if you stay in if a person stays wanting to own cows. I think the way forward for somebody that wants to have cows and not lose their ass in the commodity game and burn up their equity is to sell direct to consumer. It's hard for me to see how a person could participate in the commodity production system and compete against subsidized operations that are selling below production costs and stay in business without burning future equity.
Yeah, it's possible, but you just need to do something extra. Like um Shannon and Melinda Sims, like they're selling um a lot of their 5, 6 year old cows, at the top of the depreciation curve before it falls off a cliff, in addition to selling calves. You just need to have something extra than that, or you have your cow herd and then you're also running a herd of stockers. Something to just kind of diversify yourself that, especially for those really down years in the calf market where, it's not making a lot of sense. You just need something else to get you by for a few years till the market starts cycling up.
You
And
know, I
custom grazers could be that too, but
I
just
looked
kind
at
of what you do.
my plan was to do a mix of custom grazing and doing my own cows while I was building the herd. That plan that I came up with like 5 years ago. Um, it worked. It worked. I just I don't know why, but when I was making that plan, I never assumed that there would be a massive 3 year drought right as I was right as I was like really needing grass and really needing capacity. Man, that hurt a lot. That hurt a lot. We had to make some adjustments, and now we've made a pivot to go a different direction. But and that's just, I guess that's one of the risks of the business.
And what direction is that again?
So my cows, everything I've been working and breeding and working with the last 3 years. Um, my partner, the guy that I've been running, we've been commingled with our cows for 2 years already. He's going to buy those heifers and heifer calves and probably most of the bred heifers that have horns that he can work with. So I'm going to have a bunch of horn cattle that are probably 80% bred that have been on my program. I'm trying to market over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, by the time this podcast comes out, that won't be an issue. Um, but his family has a they do really good at farmers markets in Kansas City. They sell a lot. I'm adding capacity to his system. So my cattle are just going to go right into his system and right into his marketing apparatus. They're only going to be 15 miles away, and I'll probably get a lot of them back. I'll probably get to graze a bunch of them back the next couple of summers.
Yeah, that's great. Have all
Gonna
the marketing built right into it.
it's going back to what we're good at, right? I'm good at grass. I'm good at managing the land. he's good at finishing and getting everything, the production side, get everything scheduled to go to the plant. And his wife is the marketing whiz, because who doesn't like a 25-year-old tall, cute blonde trying to sell him beef? I mean, there's built-in marketing power right there.
Absolutely.
Uh, so let's talk about some of your custom grazing this year. And actually, I want to hear about Keaton.
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, so for those of you out there in podcast land, I had a young man that worked for me. He came out when he was a senior in high school and did kind of an internship program, and he ended up staying with me and working for me summer 2021. And then he went off to college. He came back a couple times summer 22 and helped out. And he was up there helping you out this summer. So Keaton, I guess, gosh, I forget, but he's a member of a family that's been in this area forever, and I've known a bunch of them. They're good people. So tell me about Mr. Keaton this summer.
Yeah, he was great when he first got up here. The first couple of weeks, I messaged Brian. I was like, how do I get this kid to talk?
You don't.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he's pretty hard to get opened up, but yeah, a month in the summer or so, he, spent more time around each other and uh, start giving his opinions on things and open up a little. But he did a great job. Like I was looking for like in a couple interns, and um, I was kind of expecting to get some pretty inexperienced guys that I was going to have to coach a lot. And Brian tagged Keaton in one of my posts and ended up getting in contact with him, and he wanted to come up. And then I got another guy, Tim Sandoval, from Texas, who had actually didn't have any livestock experience before. He's a chef, got super into regenerative agriculture and was obsessed with it. So he had a lot of book knowledge, and even as far as the polywire and stuff, had done a lot of, just computer learning on that. So yeah, they got up here and it was great. We hit the ground running, and I was expecting to do, with two herds, I was hoping to get daily moves um, on both herds every day, but I was like, well, if we got to go to every other day or whatever, that's a lot of cattle. Because one herd was 745, and then the heifers were 410 of them. But they just picked everything up so fast that we ended up going for sure two moves a day, and then sometimes we were at 4 moves a day. So it was pretty crazy. Just every And then we got some fencing projects done on top of that. Tore out like 6-7 miles of existing barbed wire fences and put up, I think, 4 or 5 miles of single wire high tensile. We have a lot more work to do, but no, it was extremely productive summer. And yeah, he was great. It was great having him up here.
So did Tim stay on full time?
Tim stayed on until mid-October, till we got rid of the heifers, and then he left. But he's going to come back next year. I'm actually going to send him to Ranching for Profit in in Abilene here in December. But so yeah, he's going to come back next year, and he might bring his brother up with him. So yeah, that's exciting to have him back. And it just you don't have the learning, even though they were great and caught on quick, just a lay of the land and how everything works. It'll be great to have him back again next year.
Well, I had a thought. So last week I talked to Tyler Tobald, JTAC Farms. You know him?
Yep.
And we were talking about, some of the issues in ag and some of the issues that are coming in the future. And so seasonal labor for regenerative grazing is what I wrote down. And what I'm trying to get out there is, yeah, okay, you had a great system this summer. Had two guys, you had two herds moving 2 to 4 times a day. It's awesome. Great impact on the land. Well, now that it's November and you've destocked, I'm destocking, our labor needs are dropping off rapidly. So if one of the things that we need as managers of land and livestock is that seasonal labor to go out and do polywire so they can move 4 times a day, what do we do with that labor when they're not moving cows 4 times a day? And how do we maintain a skilled pool of labor that can do that, but then still, have a way to keep them occupied in the off season so that when we do go back to grazing cattle at high densities and want to move during the growing season, we can just, call up our guys and be like, hey, grass is green, come get your polywire. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? What do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually thought about this a lot. So I think there's a couple different routes. One pool of people, or they could be the same group of people. So people that are interested in kind of regenerative grazing and need some practical firsthand experience to advance their career and go on and manage a place and do all that in that career path. And I think we kind of fit in a niche where if we can find those people and give them the opportunity to get some firsthand experience and kind of put them on a path to, where they want to go in their career. The problem with that is you only have those people for a short time, probably 1 to 3 years. And so then you have to keep, getting people like that in. So there's, you're recruiting pretty much all the time, and it's a lot of work. And then, you're probably going to have some misses in there too, people that don't work out. But also if you're in a place where your place can scale and, bring them on and they build with you and you can get your numbers to a place, maybe there's a spot in there for a salaried position. But for a lot of us, that isn't really an option right now. So yeah, I think kind of stuck in that in that, early adulthood, trying to give some people some practical firsthand experience and get some reasonable labor out of them. In exchange is kind of where we're stuck right now, I think.
Well, the note I just made was labor retention and turnover, and labor a path forward and up the ladder, and career progression, for lack of a better term. So career progression for somebody like Keaton or Tim, okay? And not to talk about either of those two guys like specifically, just like a generic version of either one of them. We got Tim, who's taken a path, who's come to it from food, and he's not like getting range management degree, and I don't know anything about him, but say, eventually he wanted to be doing things on his own. I guess the pathway, starts out, okay, you show up, you're going to intern at an operation like yours or like mine, and we're going to teach you the basics of grass, the basics of of a cow and how it uses the land, like not feeding the cow, make sure you're feeding the stomach, take care of the soil takes care of the grass takes care of the cows. Well, we get that. Then like the nuts and bolts skills, how to go out and move the water and set up the water tanks, how to go out and set up the polywire, what's the best way to join two strings of polywire together, what's the best way to hang a reel on a temporarily on a fence. Learning these nuts and bolts things, and learning the basic stockmanship. So that's a 1 year thing. Then they leave, they come back. Year 2 is some more advanced stuff, learning some more stuff. But at a certain point, you're right, nobody wants to do that forever, right? We're not going to find 60-year-old guys that have been out running polywire for 30 years on foot. That's not a reality that we're ever going to see, I don't think. So what would I'm maybe you can help me out here. I'm maybe having some trouble thinking about what a career progression might look like for somebody like Keaton or like Tim coming to regenerative agriculture for the first year or second year and wanting to get to where you or I are.
Yeah, I actually think there's a lot of opportunity right now for people like them, because neither of them, come from, or family have any land to go back to. But just with the massive succession turnover that we're having and going to have here in the next 5-10 years, with the age of farmers and ranchers being so old, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to move into managing those places. And with the expansion of regenerative agriculture, regenerative grazing, there's more and more people learning about it that are going to want their land managed in that way. So like Tim's coming back again, and so I'm putting him through ranching for profit, kind of, because I want to get him in that network of people and help him get in that network so he can do some networking and have that background as well, so that he can move on someday and find his own place to manage. And he actually even took a trip out to Indiana, I think, here this summer, to look at a place a guy was interested in maybe having him manage. It didn't end up coming to fruition, but I think there might be a lot of opportunities out there. And and so just, yeah, it's just a matter of finding those people and finding the right people, um, that that can kind of fit that role.
Yeah.
And I think the same, same for Keaton. I think he could easily, manage a place, probably step into a grazing, he'd be pretty good at being someone's, grazing manager, or, working up into that type of position. But yeah, and then kind of, Tim has a lot of background or knowledge of the grazing, and, how soil functions. And, I feel what he needs to kind of learn about is more the economic side of it. And so you can bring that to the table as well. So I don't know. I like to help my employees kind of, I want to figure out where they want to go in life, and figure out where we can align and help each other out, because I'm getting something from them, they're getting something from me, and if that goes beyond just labor and money, and can set them on where they want to go. I think it's a recruiting tool for the future too. When people move on, so hey, I worked for so and so, he was great and kind of helped me along. It wasn't just labor in exchange for money. And I think that could be a potential recruiting tool to get those type of people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So some more thoughts on that. As land turns over, it's not guys like you and me buying it for the most part. I'm not saying that, there aren't guys in their 30s and 40s going out and buying dirt. I'm not saying that. I'm saying by and large, it's it's big companies buying land. It's large corporations buying land. It's, it's Microsoft, it's Exxon, it's Shell. I just saw a couple articles this morning about that they were investing in farmland. Like, yeah, I wonder why. Because they're starting to hear about soil carbon and carbon sequestration and regenerative farming and regenerative ranching and the benefit and what they can. And they're starting to understand that we can capture some of our emissions and put them right back in the soil with just some change in management practices. Like Bill Gates is late to the party. I don't think he had any idea about soil carbon when he started buying up farms. He might not even really directed that. He might have just told his investment guy, like, you need to diversify my portfolio, and land's always been a good investment. Now, so maybe a pathway forward as we kind of move into the future, and big ranches tend to get bigger, get out. As much as we hate that mentality, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. We're going to have there's going to be a need for skilled labor that's got a resume, and like Yeah, I interned on Alexander. I interned with Trevor Burian. I interned with the Sims. I interned with who's somebody else we know, Sage Askin, right? I can manage, I know how to manage land. I know how to manage livestock. Those guys might be in demand in the corporate world to go run their corporate farms and ranches because they have the skills and they've got the background and the resume to prove it that they know what they're talking about versus somebody that's just got a degree in chemistry and ag chemistry from you name it state land grant college.
Yeah, and I think it's important for those people to that you bring on to kind of see your business too, and see how economically this works or why you're doing certain things. Um, because sometimes if you're just doing tasks, they get good at those tasks, but if they really want to progress into the business, they need to learn the whole business and learn how decisions you make can impact things economically.
So you made that comment and I got to thinking, like, for the last several years you and I have both enjoyed this a very similar situation. We're ownership, we're management, and we're labor all under one hat. So if we have a dumb idea that we want to do on the ranch or with the cows, it's probably going to get done because there's no checks and balances. What was talk about maybe some of your experience this year of having a separate labor layer and what that was like to adapt to.
Yeah, it was definitely yeah, definitely some learning to that. Just in even basic communication where you want to set up the poly wire and all that. So there was a lot of learning curve. And then um Keaton kind of always just went with the flow and did what was asked. Tim would come to me probably once a day with an idea or something he wanted to change or something we could do better. And at times it was, I kind of got frustrated with it, but you know, quarter of the time it was a pretty good idea. And um, when it came to cell design or moving the water or just stuff like that, or different fences we could tear out and put up. I mean, it was helpful in a way that it really made me expand my mind, getting some other eyes on it, and when Tim would bring that stuff up, we'd talk to Keaton and have a kind of a group discussion and get feedback. Well, how would this work? So it was frustrating at times, but in the end, it was a major net benefit, just because the only eyes that had kind of seen the ranch and everything, was myself and my wife pretty much. But um, she just I just kind of tell her what we're doing, and she just kind of says, sounds good. So it was good to have some kind of critical feedback on what we're doing and why we're doing it. So yeah, there was challenges, but I think it was a net benefit. But yeah,
You made a comment. Keaton kind of like goes with the flow. My experience was if he like maybe had some reservations about what you're going to do, he'll keep those to himself. And then when things start going sideways, he'll be like, I thought this might happen. I thought this might happen. And he's also the kind of kid that'll let you tell him, like, you tell him to go do some sketchy stuff, he'll go do it. And he'll come back and be like, I know that's not going to work. And then when it doesn't work, he'll just look at you like, told you it wasn't going to work. You ever,
yeah,
but if there's something that was real bad, he would always speak up, be like, no, we
yeah,
can't do that. That's not going to work. We can't do that. And this is why you're dumb for not seeing it this way. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. You got a point. I
yeah. When another great thing about him, like you can tell he's been around cattle a lot. I mean, we were moving the heifer herd just down the road like a quarter mile, but we had to keep him out of this wheat field that didn't have a fence on it, and it wasn't going well at first. And um, we just ended up we're just trying to like keep them out of the wheat field. They all wanted to come in. And so, all three of us running back and forth, trying to chase them out, and they just kept coming. And without me even telling him, he saw an opportunity to get a group of them just through the gate on the other side of the road, like 6, 7 of them. So he just went over there, put them through. Those other cows turned their head around, saw those ones through the gate, what's going on, and that allowed them for us to get their heads flipped around. And yeah, just something like that you're just like, holy shit, he's been around cattle a lot to realize you could do that.
Yeah, he won't say anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
he won't say anything, and you'll look up and he's over there on the next ridge, and the cows are going in the gate, and you're like, oh, okay. I guess the sun does shine on a dog's ass once in a while.
Yeah, yeah, he's got real good instincts around cattle.
I like to tell people that if you want to learn good stockmanship, go find the fat guy on a slow horse, because he'll always be in the right spot and he'll never be rushed. He'll never run. That's the guy you want to learn from.
Absolutely.
Yes, Bob Kenford, I'm talking about you right now. uh, so now that it's been, I should have looked and saw when the last one was. I know 74. We haven't done one since the beginning of the year, have we?
No,
Okay.
no. I was on, I think, originally mid-December 21, and then again sometime last summer, in summer of 22.
Well, I guess we'll just do it once a year then.
Sounds good.
So tell me about your transition from conventional to regenerative now that you're 3 years in.
Well, we're this was our 5th year actually,
Okay.
grazing. But yeah, it's so like the last time I was on was December or middle of summer last year, and we had started getting a lot of rain. But before that, for the first 3 years, we started like regenerative grazing. We were in a drought, and I saw a lot of the benefits from harvest efficiency of grass and getting more rest on the grass, that it's grown a little bit more, I thought, but we really hadn't seen like a huge jump just because we were so dry. So last year, 22, we had a good amount of rain and everything just exploded. And yeah, we were way understocked last year. And then coming into this year, we had good rain again, had back to back good years, and things exploded again. And we scaled up. We doubled our numbers from 22 to 23 in the amount of custom grazers we brought in, and we still probably didn't touch a third to 40% of the ranch. And so we have a whole bunch of stuff stockpiled, and we've even got some rain this fall, which so our fall regrowth is good, and that regrowth will just sit there over the winter and just be dormant. And as soon as the sun shines in the spring, it'll green back up. And if we can get any kind of moisture in the spring, we should be off and running again. And even if it's dry next year, I think our grass is such a good start on it, and the root systems are deep and healthy, and we're going into winter with a good soil moisture profile. I think we'll at least have a okay year, even if it doesn't rain, hopefully. But yeah, it's so much has changed. Our land looks completely different than it did even 2 years ago.
Have you measured your forage? Like,
No, not officially, but just by I have in the amount of like just amount of like cattle days are on an acre. And so a few years ago, I was figuring on our pasture land, we were harvesting 400 to 600 pounds of forage an acre, and this year we were at about 1,200 pounds of forage an acre that we're harvesting. Some spots are still 2 to 400, but on the average, we have a lot of biomass out there, and it's also to the point where we're not getting sometimes, especially with the steers this year. We had a goal of a pound a day, and they came in at 0.7 pounds a day. We have a lot of tame introduced grasses, cool season grasses, and later in the summer they start drying out. And so we probably are going to have to move off those a little bit quicker or move through them quicker and then allow that regrowth to come in 60 days after, maybe come back through and graze them again and move on to some native pastures maybe a little bit quicker. But also I think the point, I think it was we could have did that better. But also those steers had not been pulled off grain until they came onto the place. And so their rumen really hadn't gone through that transition
Did they
there.
crash
So
for like 2 weeks? They go backwards?
I don't think they gained a single pound for the first 30 days. There wasn't a lot of green early in the spring last year. We were pretty dry right away in the spring, and then about May 20th, it started raining and greening up pretty good. And so they got here on like April 30th. So and then, that green didn't start coming until end of May. So I think there was 30 days there where they might have even went backwards and then gained. So going forward, the cattle owner is going to try to pull them off grain, if it's not super cold or whatever. Yeah, 30 to 45 days before they come. And I think that'll really help, and we'll make up some pounds there. And yeah, then we'll see how it goes. If I think we need to be a little bit more selective down the stretch, if it gets dry or if things look great, maybe we can get more aggressive with it. But yeah, just kind of being a little bit more flexible in the grazing, because the last 3-4 weeks that they were here, we had so much grass out in front of us still that we knew we weren't going to get it all. We still moved them once or twice a day. We just made the paddocks bigger, so the animal impact is less, but they were just getting more of the green stuff. And even doing that, there's a lot of standing forage still out there and didn't get trampled, but I mean, it still looks pretty damn good. And so yeah, we might incorporate that a little bit more if it gets dry. And when it greens up next year, if you left too much behind, you can always hit that pasture in the middle of the flush when that grass is really lush, and utilize some of that old dead forage. So yeah, just seeing different ways that we can kind of graze and utilize the grass to try to hit, because if we don't hit the gains that the customer wants, he'll probably go find someone else to graze them, or it just doesn't make sense for him.
Yeah, for sure. And I've never liked doing stuff on gain rate, anything like that. Let's take a quick break, go recycle. Let's take a quick bathroom break, go recycle coffee, and come right back.
Sounds good.
And we're back. So I had to look. Let's wait for you for just a few seconds. It was number 73, not 74. That was back in July last year. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has.
So we were talking about stockpiled grass, and this is just burning me up, man. So we had a pretty decent year for growing grass down here in the Red Hills. And kind of like you, like I have way more stockpile than I could ever possibly use over the winter. To put it in perspective, I made the decision about, I was kicking a can down the road with my custom grazing clients, like as far as I could. And we got down to mid-May. And that's when I finally had to make a decision. Like, okay, we'll come in with this number. And it was a little less than half of what I would have brought in a quote normal average year, which normal is just a setting on a dryer. Average is just a made up number anyway. But if we would have had some decent rains, through the winter and early spring, I would have come in a lot heavier. So we came in real light. And when they showed up at the end of May, I told them, I was like, you better be prepared to send me trucks July 15th. Like, just be warned, we might be able to get to July. Like, that's what I think right now. Then it starts raining. Great. Now here we are sitting in the middle of November. I moved into a pasture Monday that had 114 days of rest on it. Normally, I would have already been through there once, but we came in so light, and kind of like you, I take about 400 pounds per acre on the first lap. Then the second lap, that's kind of where I start, is about 400 pounds an acre, and I make 400 pounds an acre of harvest, and that's where I start, and I make adjustments from there, whether I need to go a little harder or a little bit lighter. I've kind of stayed in that 400 pounds an acre band for almost every move. Had to leave them some places a little bit longer just because I wasn't going to be around. Maybe had to move, do a short move here or there. I've got a tremendous amount of stockpile, and we're not adverse to fire down here in the Red Hills. So I'm probably going to light a bunch of it on fire next year. And I was thinking about this on the break. So there's like 8 properties, but there's only 7 of us. There's a deer hunter. Then there's a neighbor that's got 2 properties leased. Then there's my cousin. Then there's my buddy that's just on my north side that I run with for a long time, Nate. We've run together for, I don't know, 13, 14 years now. We've burned a lot together. He's on the north side. Then I've got another guy that's most of my east side, and a little 720 acre landlocked. There's 2 little landlocked 720 acre, 740 acre deals. There's one that's owned by another deer hunter, one that's owned by a buddy of mine, and he's like, I want to burn. My neighbor with the 2 absentee landowners, the 2 lease properties, he's like, I got to burn it. I got to burn it. Well, this whole area I'm talking about is bordered on the north side by a river that's got some farm fields on the south side of it. The south side's a highway. The east side is it's a gravel road, and the west side's a blacktop road. 18,500 acres in there. So that's what I want to do with a bunch of my grasses. I want to light it on fire. So yeah,
it's a big fire.
Yeah, 18 and a half thousand acres. I'll probably need like 100 dudes to pull that off. But there's no fire culture where you are in North Dakota, correct?
A little bit. Well, the ranchers, a fire is a disaster here. The Forest Service and the Park Service here like to burn. So there is a little bit of that out in the grasslands and the badlands, but as far as people privately burning, no, it doesn't really happen.
What would I have to do to get you talked in to burning 40 acres next year?
Oof.
Or not even
40, I could be talked into it pretty easy. It'd be making it okay with the community.
As long as it stays on your property, what are they going to say about it?
Yeah, I'd still have to let the fire department know, and they'd have to have a unit out there. But yeah, I wouldn't be against it.
I mean, I'm advocating it as an experiment. I'm not saying, Trevor, go burn your whole ranch. I'm not saying, Trevor, go burn a quarter of your ranch. I'm saying, Trevor, go burn a postage stamp.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's a possibility.
If you're swimming in stockpiled grass, go burn a postage stamp. Just so you can watch it, just so you can see how it recovers, and maybe cut it in half, use half of it and rest the other half, and see what that does in another 6 months or in another year. And just see. Like, I'm really, I don't know what else I can say to really encourage you to do an experiment with fire to see what it does. Now that you're 5 years down this road of regenerative, and you're getting some good healthy plants, you're getting good healthy root reserves. Just see what happens. I mean, you might wake up something really cool like Eastern gamma grass.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, they'll definitely consider. There might be some spots where we could put just mow a fire line all the way around it, good bit of, and yeah, just slide up 20, 40 acres or something.
Just see what happens. I mean, and you don't have to get crazy and do it on 15-mile-an-hour wind day like I like to do. I mean, do it on a nice calm day where it's not going to go anywhere, and just sit out there with a 6-pack of beer and have a nice manageable little cool fire.
Yeah, if we were 10, 15 miles west out in the Badlands, there's a lot of Rocky Mountain juniper. We call them cedar trees, but Rocky Mountain juniper trees. encroachment. There's whole canyons that they've just completely choked out. And if I were ranching over there, I definitely would want to burn it. But yeah, I'm for an experiment.
And if you don't know, that's fine. But I know that there's some juniper trees. The ones we have are junipers, Virginia, eastern red cedar. They're fire nukes them. Like as if you get all the green off the tree, you can just leave it standing there and it's gonna die. I I know that there's some juniper trees that you have to cut, spray, and then burn it, and then you might kill it. They're kind of jerks. Do you what kind of what what between the two extremes do you have?
The type that they'll torch out in a fire, and yeah, then they're dead. So probably sounds like it's similar to an eastern red cedar.
Have you ever seen a canyon full of them go up all at once?
Yeah, I have. It's crazy.
I mean, if you've never seen it, if you've never seen cedar trees blow up, like the closest thing is to watching like some wildfire videos out of California when the big pines and the big eucalyptics and the big fir trees are blowing up. That's what it looks like. There'll be, I don't know, 150, 200 feet of flame in the air in a column of smoke so black that it like you get in the right spot and it just turns to night.
Yeah, from a ways away, it almost looks like an oil fire when they're when there's a whole bunch of cedars going up.
So where my ranch, so I live in Sun City, which is down in the river valley, and the ranch is 8 miles south, 7, 8 miles south down on the ridge. And it's not like super, super high or anything, but I've got a pretty good view. Like the horizon is 30 plus miles in any direction. So I've got a good, nice long view from the ranch. And I don't know how anybody else is, what anybody else looks at when they're driving around. But when I'm cruising through the pasture, I'm doing a horizon scan every few minutes. Like just as habit, just to be situationally aware. And when I see smoke on the horizon or smoke anywhere, like I want to know where that's at. I want to know where that's at. I want to know what the wind is doing. And I want to know if this is a threat. And if it's not a threat, I want to make sure it's not a threat to any of my buddies. And I can tell by the color of the smoke just about what it is. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I can tell a wheat field stubble fire from a grass fire. You can tell a grass fire, I mean, whether they're burning, I can almost tell a difference between when they're burning corn stalks and when they're burning wheat stubble. If it's burning in the pasture, I can tell you what it's burning in. I can tell you if it's burning up brush. I can tell you if it's mostly grass, or I can tell you that's in a whole bunch of cedar trees. Just
Yeah.
just by looking at the color of the smoke. I guess when you look at fire for 30 years, you kind of understand a few things.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else is on your mind today?
Yeah, I don't know. Just we got back from EL here this weekend from our executive link ranch for profit meetings. When
I'll
we
dig
meet,
that one.
I think 3 from me. Hopefully Dallas gives me a discount. Uh
You don't even give me a discount.
yeah, like our EL board meets 3 times a year, 2 times in Colorado Springs, and then 1 time on the ranch. So yeah, just got done with our kind of year end fall meetings, and yeah, they went pretty well. We had a good year. We need several more just like it. But yeah, it was a good year, and everyone on our board is making great progress too. And yeah, it's exciting to kind of be in that community of people.
Where was your summer meeting?
Laramie, Wyoming.
Who is your host?
Chris and Samantha Starks.
Okay.
They're yeah. And it was great. It was, completely different environment. They had a bunch of hay meadows, irrigated hay meadows that they're taking out of hay production and doing some grazing on. And man, there's just endless potential for that type of stuff for 4 months.
Yeah. Um, You're also on a board with Matthew and Lacey Brent.
No, they're not on our board. Yeah, they're on a different board. They're just in the chapter also.
Okay. Well, I was hoping to get a quick update on how they were doing. I haven't
I
really
talked I talked to
spoke to
Matt a
them.
lot here this last week. Yeah, they're doing good on their new place. Or I guess if someone has cattle they need fed, Matt said he'll take all he can get. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he's got a little yard there, I think.
hmm yeah, and I guess they had their summer meeting for their board out at their place too, and everyone's pretty impressed with what they're doing on their place.
I'm just glad they're in a place where they don't have to worry about water.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so what are you going to do this winter without cows?
It's a good question. I have the oil field business, but kind of have some good guys hired right now. So I haven't even been out on the road here for 3.5 months. Um, so that's a real good question. I'm spending a lot of time on the computer doing invoicing and stuff and uh, bookkeeper work. But I
That's
think
called running a business, Trevor.
yeah, I don't know if I'm a fan of it or not. Rather be outside. But yeah, I think just continue to grow that, and um we're we have all of our numbers pretty well sorted out after the disaster I kind of had put together, where I was running everything out of one a business and a ranch out of one checking account, and kind of throwing everything together for my accountant at the end of the year. But yeah, we're in a good spot. I'm confident in kind of what we're doing and how we can scale things, and then that we'll be able to actually confident that we'll be able to make all of our payments next year. So it's a pretty good spot. So I guess just just kind of nailing down the stuff that's really doing well for us, and growing that, and trying to trim the fat, and then we still have like some mission vision stuff to kind of go through, and that's been on our when you go to EL, you come away from each meeting with like an action list. And a big thing is kind of figuring out your mission vision and where you want to go. And we've had trouble kind of getting a lot of that stuff done because we were kind of in triage mode, where it's tough to focus on that stuff if you're not sure, if you're going to be able to make payments or stuff or anything. But uh, here the last 2 years, we've kind of straightened things out. So yeah, working on that, and then, working instead of working in the business, working on the business, doing a lot of that stuff. It's really helped me become a better um, business owner, just because I really didn't have any direction, or, you know, I knew how to, I think I've always been fairly good at managing people, but not managing money, or a lot of like the dumb clerical stuff that you have to like keep sending into the state and renewing licenses and stuff. I've always been bad at that, still not great at it, but it's really helped me to structure the business and just how to deal with people, and try to keep some guys around for the long term instead of keep having turnover every couple summers. Because I was kind of in the model, we were talking about with ranch employees. I was kind of doing that model with the oil field business too, just hiring seasonal employees for the busy months in the summer, but um, now trying to keep guys around and have some additional enterprises that can keep people busy year round, because you can just get a lot higher quality employees if you keep them around full time. Not that younger guys aren't, but they just don't have the experience and can't troubleshoot like maybe a guy in his late 20s, mid 20s can.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a value to having somebody that's got a little bit of experience and has seen a few things, knows how to take care of a minor problem or two without having to pick up the phone and call you and, hey, I'm broke down on the side of the road. Like, um, did you put fuel in it? you know,
Yeah.
just the stupid things. So what's next for you? What are you looking at for 2024? You mentioned something about scaling up custom grazing. You got to try to
Yeah,
push that a little bit harder and not leave so much stockpiled grass behind.
yeah. So we're gonna take on 900 steers next year, and then probably that second group's probably going to be somewhere between 500 and 600, and which I still think that's pretty safe and going to be a little bit understocked, but that's kind of probably maxing out our current water situation that we have. I'm probably even to get to that, I'm probably still going to end up putting 10 or 15 thousand dollars into some upgrades and replacing some inch and a quarter line with 2 inch line just so we can get more flow in places and buying a couple more portable tanks just so we have more capacity, drinking capacity. But yeah, take it on a few more and then trying to, I have a few tanks that are set up for over the winter. And so I think next year going to try to keep some dry cows longer. I was planning on maybe still having dry cows up until now, but would have been like the 25th of October, we got a foot of snow. And then it got really cold after that for a couple of weeks. It got all the way down to like -10. And I didn't have the cows in a spot where I had good winter water, and um, I didn't have any labor out here for when we were going to our EL meetings. So I sent them down the road. So I think next year doing some planning so we can keep cattle a little bit later, and maybe convincing one of my guys to stick around till mid-November or something. But I think there's definitely meat left on the bone there as far as grazing later into the fall. And then um the not the steer owner, the heifer owner is actually a neighbor only about 7 miles away. So it's real easy to move cattle back and forth. And so I talked to them if they could even bring me a few days worth of hay, in case we have a, snowstorm next year. We don't have to worry about, trailing them home. We can just, feed them hay for a few days, get them through onto the other side, and then keep grazing. That, save them money in the long term then. Because I think they took them home and they're probably feeding them already. So they might have a little bit of grass, but I don't think they have a whole lot. So I think there's ways I could help them and they could help me in that way.
I was just thinking I need to get out a little bit, take a tour around the country and see what some of my neighbors are up to. Because what kicked off the whole hay war thing last year was I was driving home one day in August, and I met a neighbor who was turning into his pasture with hay bales to go feed his cows, and that's what kicked that whole thing off. And it seems like after last year, guys aren't just pouring the feed to them in November like they have been. Like they're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and trying to feed a little bit less and make supplies last and stretch them out. The couple of hay yards that I kind of circulate past on some of my tours, they're not quite as full as they were a year ago, which that might be a little worrisome, especially if we get some winter weather coming in. It's yeah, it I think it's going to be real interesting in the next 12 months and what it looks like. So I was going to ask you something. I just forgot though. Yeah, maybe it'll come back.
I think, most of the cow calf game is figuring out how to get your winter feed costs down. And any way you can do that, whether it's, I mean, if you think you can put up hay and do all that cheap and it works for you. Some people, it works, but you're by far going to be better just, grazing stockpile as long as you can, supplementing some protein if you need to, because you just don't have all that cost of cutting it, baling it, hauling it, feeding it.
I remember what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about your water. So you're in western North Dakota, and if you put any lines in the ground, you got to put them what, 6 feet deep, some crazy crap.
Yep, if you want to use them in the winter. Yep.
So is most of your water lines, are they just laid on top of the ground?
Yeah, well, I have pretty much for every chunk of land, or um, there is a winter water source, where it comes up out of the ground and it's 6 feet buried. But for a lot of my summer grazing, yeah, I just lay above ground line from that point just to wherever I need it. And that's worked very, very well. And um it costs a fraction of the cost. And there I don't have I need to buy some more pipe, but I was just trying to save some money. So dragging it some around a little bit, which isn't easiest, and it's a little bit hard on the ends of it. But yeah, it's so great just to have water wherever you need it. A few thousand feet of pipe, and you can just run it away from wherever hydrant you want, and have the water. But then you obviously, depending on your herd size, you need the flow. Like I've had to on pretty much both of my herds, I have two water sources tied together to get above 10 gallons a minute to kind of get the water flow and volume that I need on it. So it's yeah, taking some creativity in it. Kind of sometimes looks like it's just cobbled together, but it's working well.
What it looks like it's just cobbled together. That means it's easy to take apart and move somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And as far as draining it, um most of my breaks are if there's like a fitting or a valve in a low spot where water pulls and then freezes and thaws, and you'll break on the valves or the fittings. But if it's just a pipe going through a low spot and there's a little bit of water in there, it doesn't I haven't had any breaks on that. So I've just had good luck just in the low spots. If I have a spot there to take it apart at all the valves, just disconnect one of the pipes so the water can drain out. And it's it's been working pretty well.
What are your portable tanks?
So they're the Shane Barber steel tanks. They're 1,200 gallon tanks, and we can move them with the hydrobed. You could also move them with a skid steer, but moving them with our bale bed works pretty well, just because you can take them a lot farther and faster than you can with a skid steer. And yeah, for the steer herd, we had two of those for 745. We're going to add a third one for that, and then try to add another few gallons a minute of capacity by switching out some 1.25 inch line for some 2 inch line. I think that'll increase our flow a little bit to get a few more gallons per minute to the tank. And so then we'll have three with a herd of 900 next year. And then with that other group of 500 to 600, I'm going to put a second one out there. This year I just had one for 410, and that was got pretty tight at times. And so did the two for the steers, but not quite as bad. But yeah, just having enough capacity, or just water there, that when they walk up, they can get a drink and they're not waiting around for water. um Even if they are grouped up kind of tight when they all come in for water, the ones that are drinking getting a full drink, so they're not just standing there slurping at that trickle of water, I think is really important, so they can get in and out of there and back to grazing. And then then they're not laying around the water tanks, that they get their manure out more into the pasture. So yeah, between those portable tanks and that above ground line, that has really kind of changed how we graze and how we set up pastures, because everything's not exactly around a water point. We can just make the pasture the easiest it would be to fence, and then kind of incorporate where the best spot for the water would be.
I've talked to Shane. Like those Barber Industries tanks are really cool, and I'm probably going to own one or two of them next year. And it's good to hear that feedback from you about. Sounds like about 250 to 300 head is about what one of the ones you have will water, which is the 1,200 gallon size, which I think is the smaller one that he makes.
Yeah, yep. I think that yeah, he makes the wings with the bale bed ones. I think those are a little bit smaller. He has put it on like I think a 14 or 1,600 gallon one, but it's a lot less stable, and you probably got to do some chaining then.
Yeah, I think, you know, bigger's not always better because you got to move it, you got to fill it. Bigger might not always be better. And, you know, I've been looking at those, that smaller size because I think that might fit my needs. But now I might think I might need to go look at a little bit bigger one, like, you know, a 14 or 1600 gallon one, so I can get more like 350 to 400, which I think is the capacity that I need versus, you know, 250 to 300.
Yeah, we've really liked them. Yeah, the problem is that, when it gets cold in the winter, they're not great tanks. I mean, you can get by if it's probably above 20, you can get by, just whether you want to let the tank run over a little, set the float a little bit low, but then you're going to kind of deal with a mud mess a little bit. But there's different ways you can get by for a little bit. But yeah, they're a great option in the summer as it gets colder. They're not the best.
It would almost be it would almost be probably a 300-day thing for me. I could probably
Yeah.
almost get 300 days on a system like that, maybe even more. But,
Hmm.
you know, we won't get hard freeze that much. But when we get it, sometimes we get it like we've got the last two Februarys where it's just straight up under zero for 2 weeks. And that's less than ideal. And that's when you put the cows on the creek or by a pond and say,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah. So we could probably use it 160 to 180 days a year, but the complexity of your water goes down so much. When it gets cold up here and the grass isn't as delicate. I mean, you can make cattle trail a mile back to water in the winter, especially if you get those calves weaned. Um, and so yeah, and so it makes sense in the summer, and you'd think it'd be a problem, but as long as you have that one water source per pretty much square mile, as far as winter goes, you should be all right.
The thing I get into is I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. But where do I have that's level enough for a tank like that to sit that I'm not going to have to go out and build a pad for every single time? And sometimes just sitting here, you know, of course, wearing my black hat of planning, wearing my black hat of planning, I'm like, I'm trying to, the part of the ranch I'm stuck on, I'm just thinking there's 1,000 acres up there, and there's like three places that I could maybe stick one of those tanks where it's not on a side hill where it's actually be level enough to hold water. But
We use wood blocks a lot to kind of just put it under side to get it level. But yeah,
I
you still need a relatively flat spot to even do that.
I was wondering if you could crib it up on one side and if that worked or not, but I was afraid to ask. I'm glad you said something. Because
Yeah, yeah,
that'd be one of those dumb things that I would try and not tell anybody about unless it worked.
yeah. About half the time we can find a spot flat enough where we don't have to do that. But yeah, about half the time where we have to put some blocks under one side or so doesn't get all, because if it tilts, the water will just keep dumping out of it. Float won't stop it.
Nobody's got time for that.
No.
So should I explain the black hat?
Yeah, sure.
So in EL, there's a thing, um, and the boards I've been on have always been pretty big about it. It's called the six thinking hats. So there's like yellow, green, red, black, blue. I forget. Blue is the scheduling hat. Black is the negative hat. Like red is the emotional hat. Green is the positive hat. So when we're like negative about something and looking at something and throwing up all the negatives about it, we say, you're black hatting that. Take off your black hat. Quit black hatting. So I
I've
refer
got
to,
I've got told that a bunch. That's been something that, not so much about other people, but when people are talking about mine. It's like, nope, tried that, won't work.
It- it-
Tried that.
and it's
Won't
usually your wife
work.
telling you take off your black hat.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's kind of gotten the habit of it now. Just like, yep, there's the black hat, and it's like, ah, shit.
Does your board at least have a good blue hat?
Yeah, yeah. We're pretty good about keeping time and working through stuff, and and I think another element of that is knowing when to go over too. If there's like a good discussion happening, and we're doing some serious stuff, who cares if we go 15, 20 minutes over? But let's just, keep track of that and like, hey, we went over here, take it from somewhere else. But no, I think that's a big part on how meetings go, because some parts can run way too long and you're not really talking about anything important, or, should we just move on to the next thing if we're not making. And something our board started doing is, like, especially with what we talk about in the meetings, we just don't want to talk about any little thing. Like, let's bring executive level decisions and talk about executive level decisions um, to your business. Like, is what we're talking about $100,000 thing? Like, is that's what we need to be focused on.
You know, you brought up something that I'd like to explore a little more. So here on the podcast, like, people hear about ranching for profit all the time. I mean, that stupid cash register probably goes off an average of twice an episode over 142 of these things, right? We mention Executive Link every once in a while. And for those that don't know, Executive Link is a follow on program. It's a graduate support program for ranching for profit, but it's more than that. Maybe how many years have you been in EL now?
2 full years. So yeah, we'll be going into our third.
Okay. Maybe to talk a little bit about what EL is and isn't, and what it's like, the positives that it's done for your business.
So yeah, like, we didn't really have my dad's passed. My mom lives in Bismarck. We're on the place. Um, got a living trust where I pay her so much every year, basically rent, and then I get the land when she passes. Um, and she's really not involved in the operation, and so it's basically just my wife and I out here, and we don't really have any mentors or uh, people to kind of give advice, which I think is good and bad, has done good and bad things for us. And so this is kind of just given us people to bounce ideas off of, because there's a lot of things that we just go full on into or be heading this direction, but we don't even know if it's the right direction or the right thing to do, um, or other options, different things you can do. Just having other people give insight into your business and um, their opinions on what they think is working, what they think is not working, what can you scale, and then also having your shit together, like, in your numbers consistently multiple times a year, not just at the end of the year, everything thrown together, and having people look at that and telling them, this is what we expect, this is what we're doing, has been really helpful for us. Because like I mentioned earlier, the I was running everything out of a bank account. I had a profitable business and a ranch that was losing money, and just kind of combining them all and getting that all straightened out, it has really helped. And then another really valuable thing, probably the most valuable, you personally probably spend, well, 1/6 of the time on your own business, and then the rest of your time is spent on other people's business, and really diving into that, and the problems or issues that they're going through. A lot of you probably have some relatability to it and some advice to offer, but also you're gaining the experience that they are gaining, because they're sharing everything with you, what they're going through, so that if you end up going through that in the future, you have some frame of reference. And then also, I just think the resources, that group of people, um, there's somebody good at everything in there. There's somebody good at feedlotting, there's dairy, there's direct to consumer, there's yearlings, there's cow calf, there's somebody successful at something, at every sector. So if you're going into that, you can get advice, what worked, what didn't, what you got to look out for. Um, and yeah, so it's really helped us. The bad part about it is it's just expensive. I've talked to you about this. It's really expensive. It's $4,000 a year. Um, and for us to travel down to Colorado Springs, I mean, it's a week of time, so it's 3 weeks out of the year for us. And you know, and then you have travel and hotels and all that. Um, so it probably ends up costing us 15,000, probably all everything in it. But
That's
just the progression we've made, it wasn't all because of that. We had to do the work, but just the decisions going there and conversing with people and getting advice has led us to. I mean, the return on that investment is still is astronomical for us.
I had it figured around. I don't know the exact number, but 15,000 seems really close between all the travel, the tuition, and meals and hotels. And then you mentioned that it's basically 3 weeks. I had it figured as really a month, like 30 days, like 30 work days. That's counting prep for the meetings, travel, doing the meetings, travel home, and you know, doing all this stuff. Like it was a 30-day commitment. Like I needed to have 30 days out of my work year to commit to EL. And I, I'm not participating. And it's not because I don't think it isn't extremely valuable, because it is. I definitely see the value. I've just been to the place in the last 2 years that I need to get my own ducks in a row. I need to get my own house in order. And EL, the year and a half I spent in EL, it showed me that. Like I've got some serious structural problems that I need to take care of before I can come back here and really be here for what I need to be here. I did want to stay, and I'll tell you this, I wanted to stay because I like going. I like sitting in the meetings and I like helping other people. That's to me was almost as it was worth going, was A, being around our people, being around the network, and B, being able to watch somebody come in from day one. I don't know how you guys do your meetings, but like show up on Thursday morning for first session and they just throw all their problems on the table. And then Saturday at noon, y'all are leaving with action plans and they're happy and they're hugging everybody. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so amazing to watch a business come in with a sense of hopelessness and leave with a plan of action and definable steps and have hope and go home. And then they come back, 3-4 months later, the next meeting, and you're like, we did it. We
Yeah,
nailed
yeah.
every item on that list.
We say if at least one person on the board doesn't cry during the meetings, we're screwing up. It's
Okay.
because we've all kind of went through our really hard stuff where and it's emotional. And I my least favorite part of the meetings is our own meeting. It's so fun to hear about others people's stuff and what they're doing, and to try to be able to help them.
If I had a choice, I'd probably go first.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get all my uncomfortable crap out of the way first so I can sit back and
Hmm.
have fun for a couple days and help you guys.
Yeah. One thing that I think we've got really good doing is, when we get the list of facilitators and who's going to be at each meeting, um, is selecting the facilitator that kind of what we want to work on. And we chose John Haskell to kind of to be our facilitator. And we just had a great meeting, kind of just going over our debt coverage ratio, because our biggest challenge is cash. Like things show a profit, but there's not a lot of cash in the bank ever. And just going through, what we're spending on payments, equipment, land payments, pickup payments for the oil field business, and figuring all that in is like, okay, well, is this even going to work? Because we're showing profits, but are we, are we just going to run out of money? And like, and yeah, going through all that, and he's sharp. And then um, Jordan, who joined RMC here 2 years ago, um, kind of to help on that economic side. He's great too. And so they've kind of really taken a step forward, helping people out with their economics and finances as far as bringing in high level people to help out. John Haskell has that Ranch Right LLC
Okay.
business for doing a lot of ag accounting and stuff. And yeah, it's it was really good. It was a good meeting, and it helped us be confident that like I said, we had a good year. We need several more, but at least we know that we're headed down the right path.
For every gut punch at an EL meeting, there's also a couple of pats on the back.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I
For
mean,
sure.
there was more than one that, I walked out of there after my session and felt like that I'd just been beaten with a chain and punched in the gut, left for dead, but it gets better.
Yeah, it just comes down to that you are the you or I are the biggest limiting factor, on our place. And how do we change our mindset and our habits and what we're doing to maximize that while still doing, what's right for the land and everybody around us and for our bank account, just kind of meshing all those together.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we kind of need to wrap this up. How do you want to end it?
I think we're in a unique spot right now in the cow calf business. And if you went through a few hard years, like when markets were low and drought and everything, now'd be a great time to get out. And or in a year or something, or at least run that question by yourself. What would it look like to capitalize on this market? Because that's kind of one of the paradigms I had, is like, no, these are my cows. I ride them right into the dirt. But you can always buy back and use that market as opportunity to make even more money. Um, just because this market's not going to last forever, and then use your profits wisely.
I hope I'm a whole lot smarter. Not a whole lot. I hope I'm at least 3% smarter on the next cattle cycle than I was on this one.
Yeah, me too. I hope I'm a whole lot more than 3% because I was pretty dumb, but still am. But yeah,
Hey, I I've done some dumb stuff, and I know I'm probably going to continue to do dumb stuff. I would just want to make just a little bit of improvement.
yeah, absolutely.
Like set that bar low, so when I do manage to leap over it, I feel really good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What we do with what we do with profits here in the next, if you're, are profitable, making the profit in that cow calf business, what you do with that profit here in the next few years is going to be what sets you up for the future to, get through tough times and be more resilient. And if you went through tough times in the past, what are you doing to change that or mitigate that going into the future?
Build resilience and diversify.
Absolutely.
And we go through these hard times, and when times are hard, you kind of have to funnel and silo your operation. But as soon as things start getting good, don't just double down on what got you through the hard time. You need to go back out and diversify and widen your support base out, because the 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 catastrophe that siloed you last time into a certain kind of operation will look different the next time it comes around. And maybe the next time it comes around, it's not drought, it's some novel bovine disease that devalues the cow herd by 50%. Like, I hate that I just kind of like manifested that thought into reality, but there it is. Or it could be, I mean, The same thing with chicken or hogs, but that won't affect us, right? Some new novel disease gets in the cow herd that's 1,000 miles away and crashes the value of cattle. Well, if you're siloed into that, now what do you do? If you have a very narrow support base and you've just gone all in on cows because that's what worked for you through the last time of trouble, and that's what saved your bacon the last time through trouble, well, we'll just double down and go all in on that. Well, the next catastrophe could kick the legs out from underneath that pot. And if you don't have any other legs on your pot for sustainability or what am I getting at? Diversification, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're looking into, or probably going to sign a contract with Grassroots Carbon, and yeah, just to try to build out that resiliency even more. In case there's a year where we don't have a lot of livestock income, that might be, just another thing that could get us by, and maybe it could be in addition someday too. But that's another thing that we're doing to build a little bit resiliency into the system.
You need to sign that. You need to sign that grassroots deal. It's a good.
Yeah, I wanted to go through the EL meeting before and just kind of get everyone's thoughts, but then I realized no one really knows as much as I knew about it. So they're like, "Yeah, sounds great, free money." But
that's kind of where I end up a lot of times too, Trevor. I'm like, I start going and doing the research, and I'm like, a lot of the roads lead back to me.
mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to be pioneers and maybe take some arrows and see how it works.
Yeah. There's just the opportunity cost of doing nothing, I think, is greater than the what possibly could go wrong, which I don't, unless you till up your land or develop your land or just treat it like shit, I don't think there's a whole lot of downside.
And that's how I see it too. That's exactly how I see it. Like, unless you're planning on pulling a moldboard plow through it, just sign the dang contract and take the free money.
Yeah, and they talk to a few different carbon companies, and our visions just kind of aligned. I talked to another carbon company, and they were talking about interseeding pastures and putting on 10 pounds of fertilizer to get everything kick-started. And I don't know if you know how soil carbon and carbon to nitrogen ratio works.
Yeah. I'll have to text you here later and you tell me about some of those companies when we're offline and it's not going to be on the record. I might like to hear a few of those details, and I might have a few of my own to share with you. But
sounds good.
All right. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for the chat today, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's fun. Anytime.
All right. Well, I'll let you go do your afternoon, and the rest of y'all go have a great week. See ya.
Thanks, Brian.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the Q&A and the polls on Spotify. Your support helps us bring more enlightening conversations and fresh stories from the world of farming and ranching. Thank you for listening to Ranching Reboot, your favorite regenerative ag podcast.